we're going to start talking about?
Yeah, you were talking about players that the coaches were mentioning and kind of picking out by name during the press conferences, interviews, media contacts. And another name that I wanted to throw alongside Jackson Kirkland, it's like a little Venn diagram, another circle that he fits in. Him, Kate Otten, others like Keith Taylor, Elijah Molden, those four I know were receiving a lot of praise from the head coach Jimmy Lake, as well as some other of the coaches and even other players on the field. As really having filled in those shoes and stepped up into being the leader roles. I mean, those guys were called out by name, all in the same answer from a press conference. I think it was by Lake, and where he answered and said that those guys were absolutely stepping up. Another thing I think that goes a little under the radar when you get these like first week before the games, that like penultimate step until you start competing again, is that Jimmy Lake did say that fall ball has resulted in some bumps and bruises, but that it was a very hard and singular no when asked if there were any season-ending injuries or mishaps. So that's always good news coming out of it. You never want that to be the first line in the article about your team heading into your first week of games.
Touching off of what you just said there really quick, yeah, just talking about how hard fall camp has been, he mentioned that with the scrimmages, it's basically been like they've played 2 to 3 games already, which is what you love to see going into this odd season. And I don't remember which coach it was, but one of them talked about this has been the most they've tackled in a camp before a season at his time at UW, which that's
Yeah,
something you love to see.
No, absolutely. I was just about to bring up that quote you were mentioning when
Oh,
talking about
geez.
the increased hitting. But then pairing that again, I think the same coach, I'm pretty sure it was Jimmy Lake, saying that yes, they've had a lot more hitting than they have had in the past, but regardless of that, they still feel very strong. And obviously not seeing anyone get moved to injury reserve or off of the two deep or even the starting sets of rotations. Not seeing anyone get removed from that on paper is a good sign as well. One of my bigger takeaways for the entire fall ball was that throughout the summer, I mean, there were questions over and over and over and over again. Is Jimmy Lake going to fit in? Is John Donovan going to fit in? Is this all going to meld? Is it going to flesh together? Watching the scrimmages, I think it's pretty obvious that we have a competitive offense. So that offense on some form, whether or not you agree or disagree, whether it's on the absolute lowest foundation of the word, for meshing together, if it's at the highest degree of it, something on our offense is clicking. That's the important takeaway. I think something on our offense is absolutely clicking, whether that stems from John Donovan or whether that stems from Jimmy Lake. I don't know. It's working. Something here is working. The positions, the questions about no, this is not going to work. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be a little clunky. We're not going to start off well with our first game. I think all of those can go out the window. I absolutely think our team's starting to click together. I don't think this is the highest we can go. I think the skill ceiling for this, the potential that we have to get better is still there. I'm just very happy that one of my takeaways can be it seems like it's starting to work. And that's my biggest takeaway from fall camp.
Yeah, I think touching on the offense, how they seem to be clicking. I mean, really the only question mark at the offense is the quarterback position. I mean, I talked about the wide receiver group being young and deep, the offensive line group being another young group that's got lots of depth behind it. And then bringing it home on the offense, the running back group is another group that we'll get into that later with the depth chart, but it's very deep. Well, it's 4 guys, but they're all 4 guys that could play. You look at Sean McGrew, Richard Newton, really carried the load last year alongside Savon Ahmed, who's graduated now. Kamari Pleasant has put on some weight this offseason to bulking up a bit. And then just bringing it in at the bottom is Cameron Davis, who he redshirted last year, so he's a redshirt freshman. And the coaches have talked a lot about him running hard, being really competitive, which you love to see out of the young running backs, and you just love to see out of a running back, just wanting to run hard, go through contact, and get into the end zone. Bringing it towards like the defense, what we learned from them, you mentioned it before with naming all these guys, Keith Taylor, Elijah Molded. The defensive back group going into fall camp was thought of as the strongest position group, and I think this camp has solidified that. A lot of veterans on it with Elijah Molden, a lot of young rising stars, Trent McDuffie, Asa Turner. These guys are all big-time players. And then bringing it towards the linebacker group, you have a lot of talk of Edefon Ulofoshio, and then Jackson Sermon. They the linebacker coach mentioned them as the two starters. A couple weeks ago, he said that they'd probably be the two starters if they started now. And on the depth chart, they're the two starters. So that's a good sign that they were able to keep their spots, keep competing, and overall, the defense is going to definitely be a strong spot for this Husky team.
No, yeah, without a doubt. I was looking at a very interesting article. I don't remember where it was from. It was an opinion piece, I think maybe it was a staff writer, possibly, talking about when you see these preseason scrimmages, like what scores do you want to see out of it? All of the scores from, I think it was 4 total scrimmage games that we played, gold versus purple. All of them were falling in those boundaries of like the scores you want to see, hovering in the 20s range. Neither team like absolutely dominating the other. You're not seeing super low scores, super high scores. So I think it's absolutely safe to say, and I think it's correct to say, that we're looking like we're going to have a very, very good start to the season. You delved into it a little bit, and if I haven't heard a better opportunity for a transition